Claressa Shields is out here doing it again, y'all, and I mean this with my whole entire chest. The woman is running a full-blown Remy Ma cosplay operation in broad daylight, and now she's about to sit across from Cam Newton on Funky Friday tomorrow, like the internet is not going to eat her alive the moment she opens her mouth. This is not a boxing interview. This is not a career milestone. This is a controlled demolition scheduled for 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and the person lighting the fuse is Claressa herself, because every single time this woman gets in front of a microphone that is not attached to a boxing ring, something goofy comes out of her mouth, and this time the stakes are higher than they have ever been because she is walking into that interview with a brand new music video dropping, a mistress storyline that will not die, and a copycat pattern so obvious that a child in elementary school could point to the screen and say that one is copying that one. And I need you to understand something before we go 1 inch further into this video, because the thing about what is happening with Claressa Shields right now is that everybody is watching the surface, everybody is watching the interview announcement, everybody is watching the bathtub scene, and nobody is watching the actual pattern underneath it all, the pattern of a woman who has been systematically studying Remy Ma's entire public identity and repackaging it as her own personality. That is not gossip. That is a receipt-based accusation, and by the time we get to the bathtub breakdown, and I promise you we are getting to the bathtub breakdown, you are going to understand why this is not a coincidence, why this is not a vibe, why this is a deliberate, calculated, dollar store rebrand of another woman's entire life, and why the Cam Newton interview tomorrow is about to be the moment the whole thing collapses in front of a national audience. There are two timelines running at the same time right now. The one Claressa wants you to watch, the undisputed champion, the boxing greatness, the mindset queen. And the one that has actually been determining every single move she has made for the last year, the entanglement timeline, the copycat timeline, the mistress with a microphone timeline. And they're not the same story. And what is scheduled to happen tomorrow on Funky Friday is the exact moment those two timelines are going to slam into each other on camera, and Claressa is going to have to answer for both of them at the same time. Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like, and subscribe. Let's get into it. Now let me set the table properly for anybody who is just walking in here late, because you have to understand the full picture before we can even get into what is about to happen tomorrow. Claressa Shields, undisputed boxing champion, Olympic gold medalist, one of the most decorated female boxers this country has ever produced, has spent the last stretch of her career becoming known less for what she does inside the ring and more for what she does outside of it, specifically her ongoing entanglement with Papoose, the rapper who is still legally married to Remy Ma. And I want to be very careful and very precise with my language here, because this is important. Papoose reportedly filed for divorce approximately a year and 4 months ago. But filing for a divorce and having a finalized divorce decree that designates you as legally single as a Pringle to do whatever you want with whoever you want are two entirely different things. A filing is a piece of paper. A decree is a legal reality. And to this day, Claressa has not produced any receipts, any documentation, any evidence whatsoever of an active, moving, finalized divorce proceeding. What we have instead is a performative filing that reportedly happened only after Claressa's presence in Papoose's life became too loud to ignore, and a wife in Remy Ma who has reportedly, on multiple occasions, offered to send the divorce papers herself, offered to pay for Papoose to have an attorney, offered to cover the entire cost of the proceeding just so this situation could be closed out cleanly, and Papoose reportedly said absolutely not. Which raises the obvious question that nobody in Claressa's camp wants to answer. If this man is so ready to move on, if this new relationship is so real, if this is such a power couple, why is he refusing free legal representation to finalize his freedom? Why is he holding on so tightly to the paperwork that would allow the woman he is publicly parading around with to actually become his wife? Remy said it herself. She said Pap wants half, and she said ain't getting is what she said. And that is that on that. Now layer on top of that the fact that Claressa did not just show up in this man's life as a random new love interest. She reportedly befriended Remy, positioned herself close to the family, made herself comfortable in a space where a wife had already been standing for years, and then flipped the entire situation into a redemption arc for herself while the actual wife was quietly getting her divorce papers ignored. The stakes here are not just personal. The stakes here are cultural, because the culture is watching how a decorated black woman athlete chooses to spend her platform, and she is choosing to spend it on being the other woman. The stakes are financial, because sponsors, brand deals, and big-name fights do not want to attach themselves to a boxer whose entire personal brand has become tabloid content. And the stakes are reputational, because Claressa is at the exact moment in her career where she should be cementing her legacy as the greatest female boxer of all time. And instead, she is cementing her legacy as the woman who tried to become Remy Ma and could not even get the bathtub right. So when I tell you tomorrow's Funky Friday interview is not just an interview, I mean it. This is the collision. This is the moment. And I have a whole lot more to walk you through before we get there. Let me start with the surface, because the surface alone is enough to make anybody with two eyes and a functioning memory pause and rewind. The Funky Friday announcement itself is where the whole thing begins, and it reads, and I quote directly, "Undisputed in the ring and unapologetic outside of it," with the little boxing glove emoji, and it says Claressa Shields talks greatness, mindset, relationships, and the journey behind becoming one of boxing's biggest stars. Relationships. They put the word relationships right there in the promo copy, in writing on a public post, with a straight face. This is not a boxing conversation. This is a soft launch of a Mistress Redemption tour with a boxing costume on. And how much you want to bet, how much you actually want to bet, that Claressa is going to sit across from Cam Newton tomorrow and find a way to mention Remy without being asked about Remy. How much you want to bet she is going to find a way to talk about Papoose without being asked about Papoose. How much you want to bet she is going to deny that she is with a married man, wave the reportedly filed divorce papers around like a magic wand, and act like everything is legally Gucci when there is no evidence of an actual finalized divorce anywhere on this earth. Piece of evidence number 1, and we are just getting started. Piece of evidence number 2, the music video. Claressa dropped a promotional clip for a new record, and I am going to be honest with you, before I even realized this was supposed to be a Claressa Shields song, my brain immediately went to Remy Ma. That is not me reaching. That is not me being petty. That is my brain doing the exact thing every viewer's brain is going to do when they see this clip, because the entire visual language of it, the entire mood, the entire staging is lifted directly from a woman who already did it, and did it better. And did it first. In the video, you have Papoose feeding Claressa grapes. Grapes. Red grapes. The exact same energy as one of the most iconic Remy Ma moments in recent memory. You have Claressa in a bathtub trying to do the sensual boudoirs moment. You have them sitting together like a manufactured power couple. And the lyrics are talking about private flights and good food and still hungry inside and slept on the floor, and this ain't flexing, this is facts, it's a blueprint story. And I need everybody to slow down for a second, because I want to interrogate every single one of those lyrical claims one by one. Piece of evidence number 3, the private flight claim. When has Claressa Shields ever been on a private jet? At the absolute most, we have seen Delta One. We have seen first class. Delta One is many things: comfortable, luxurious, upgraded, but Delta One is not a private flight, and anybody who has ever actually been on a private flight knows the difference. And please do not tell me we are supposed to count the bout challenge where Papoose was hanging out in front of some private jets on Instagram. Because standing in front of a private jet and being on a private jet are two entirely different phone calls with two entirely different price tags. Piece of evidence number 4, the slept on the floor line and the blueprint line. Claressa's own cousin reportedly exposed that there are no floors and no doors, allegedly, for at least one of her relatives back home in Flint, Michigan. So while Claressa is out here on a track selling a lifestyle of international glory and private jet luxury, the receipts from her own bloodline reportedly say the family is barely making ends meet. Make it make sense. And on the blueprint, no ma'am. Your behavior is not a blueprint. Your behavior is a cautionary tale. Every up-and-coming female boxer coming through the amateur ranks right now should have your recent social media on the Jumbotron with a big red X across it and a coach standing in front of it saying, "Do not do this. Do not parade around with a married man. Do not befriend the wife and then slide into the husband. Do not tank your own brand deals for a rapper who will not even sign his own divorce papers." That is not a blueprint. That is a warning label. Every single one of these surface-level pieces of evidence, on their own, is embarrassing. Together, they are catastrophic. And we have not even gotten to the deeper layers yet. And oh, do I have more for you? So much more. The stands are really not going to like this next part, because up to this point everything I have laid out has been surface level. Everything I have laid out has been what you can see with your own eyes on a music video promo and a Funky Friday announcement post. But now we are going one layer down. We are going into the cultural evidence, The moments where people close to this situation, people who know things the average fan does not know, have already been reacting, already been posting, already been dropping breadcrumbs that the algorithm has been quietly burying. And there is one particular pattern in the cultural response that is about to make everything you just heard about the bathtub and the grapes look like the appetizer. Because when we get to the archive comparison between what Claressa is doing right now and what Remy Ma already did years ago, you are going to see with your own two eyes that this is not inspiration. This is not homage. This is a copy and paste job with the file names still attached. Let me start with the archive itself. Remy Ma has a bathtub scene that is arguably one of the most iconic visual moments of her entire career, and if you are a real Remy fan, you already know exactly the verse I am talking about. It might be my favorite Remy verse of all time. It might be my favorite Remy anything she has ever started or been featured on. It is in the top of the top for me. And in that scene, Remy is in a bathtub, surrounded by a full assortment of candles. I am talking a whole perimeter of candles, an entire ambience, with rose petals in the water, with champagne on the side, with the whole sensual production value cranked all the way to 100, and the verse she is delivering over that scene is actually dealing with adult, sensual, grown woman content. The visual matches the content. The content matches the visual. It is coherent. It is intentional. It is Remy. Now cut to Claressa's video. Bathtub. Papoose feeding her grapes. But instead of the full candle perimeter, we get what I can only describe as a Dollar Tree candle situation. A couple of candles, not too much on the candles, no rose petals with any real presence, no champagne with any real weight, and Claressa is not delivering a sensual grown woman verse over the top of it. She is delivering third-grade lyrics about private flights she has never taken and floors she reportedly did sleep on according to her own family. The visual does not match the content. The content does not match the visual. It is incoherent. And more importantly, it is a clear, deliberate, side-by-side recreation of a Remy Ma moment that Remy Ma already owned. And I already know what some of the Claressa stans are getting ready to say in the comments. They are going to say she was not in curlers. They're going to say nobody was feeding Remy grapes. They're going to say the specific details are not identical. And to them I say, I hear you, I acknowledge you, and I completely dismantle your argument in the same breath, because this is not about whether the curlers matched or whether the grape platter was identical. This is about the entire ambience, the entire concept, the entire staging of a sensual bathtub moment that Remy Ma already made iconic, being lifted wholesale and slapped onto a new subject. That is not a coincidence. That is a mood board decision. Piece of cultural evidence number 1, and again, we are just getting started. Piece of cultural evidence number 2, the wedding and vow renewal recreation. It is not just the bathtub. Multiple observers have pointed out that Claressa and Papoose have been showing up in outfits, poses, and setups that mirror specific moments from Remy and Papoose's actual wedding and their vow renewal. The same aesthetic. The same energy. The same visual DNA. Except now it is Claressa in the wife position, trying to slide into a chair that already has somebody's name engraved on it. Piece of cultural evidence number 3, Chanel, Papoose's daughter, and her reported involvement in the creative direction of some of this content. If accurate, this means the recreation is not accidental. This is a family production. This is a room full of people looking at Remy Ma's actual life and saying, let us reshoot this with a different woman in the lead role and see if the internet notices. The internet noticed. Piece of cultural evidence number 4, the theme party recreations. Multiple observers have pointed to Claressa apparently recreating a version of one of Remy Ma's theme parties, complete with visual echoes that only somebody who studied Remy's archives would even know to reference. That is not a woman living her own life. That is a woman doing homework. That is a woman with a spreadsheet somewhere titled Remy Ma Aesthetic, recreate these. Now let me acknowledge the counter-argument, because I promised I would be fair. Some people will say lots of rappers do bathtub scenes. Some people will say sensual imagery in music videos is not new. Some people will say the wedding aesthetics were just trends. And I hear that. I really do. In isolation, any one of these things would be nothing. A bathtub scene alone is nothing. A grape moment alone is nothing. A wedding-adjacent outfit alone is nothing. But when you stack 4, 5, 6 specific recreations of one specific woman's specific archive, on top of the fact that the new woman is currently entangled with that specific woman's husband, the coincidence defense collapses under its own weight. This is not a genre trend. This is a targeted rebrand. And the biggest tell of all is what Claressa said about herself recently. She went on a live and told everybody with her own mouth that she is a penny pincher and she does not spend money. So if she does not spend money, how is she flying private everywhere? How is she funding a Blueprint International Glory lifestyle? And why did she reportedly go from working out at luxury gyms to Planet Fitness, from being decked out in Louis Vuitton, Gucci, and Van Cleef head to toe with $200,000 worth of jewelry allegedly on her body, to barely wearing any jewelry at all in recent appearances? The lifestyle in the song is not the lifestyle in real life. And if she was actually on a private jet, we all know for a fact she would have filmed every single second of it and posted it 15 times, because this is a woman who films Delta One like it is her first day on Earth. So the cultural evidence is not just embarrassing. It is contradictory to her own recent public statements. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Which brings us to a much bigger, much more serious question that nobody in the entertainment press is willing to ask out loud. And that question is not about music. That question is about the entire business machine that is currently propping up this rebrand and why. Let me shift gears completely, because up to this point we have been talking about videos, we have been talking about grapes, we have been talking about candles, we have been talking about the surface theater of this whole situation. But if you stop the story there, you are missing the actual story. The actual story is not about Claressa copying Remy in a bathtub. The actual story is about what a rebrand like this is designed to accomplish, who it is designed to benefit, and what it reveals about the incentive structure that Claressa Shields is currently operating inside of. And once you understand the incentive structure, you understand why every single one of these decisions, the Funky Friday appearance, the music video, the lyrics about private flights, the copycat aesthetics, is not random. It is strategic. And it is strategic in a way that is quietly torching her actual career while she is distracted by the theater of it all. Angle number 1, the boxing economy. Women's boxing is at a genuine inflection point right now. Sponsorship dollars, streaming deals, pay-per-view purses, and crossover opportunities for female fighters are the highest they have ever been in the history of the sport. Claressa Shields, on paper, should be the single biggest beneficiary of that entire economic wave. She is the most decorated fighter of her generation. She is undisputed. She is American. She is marketable. She should be sitting in rooms with Nike, with Adidas, with global luxury brands, negotiating the kind of endorsement deals that set up generational wealth. Instead, what is she reportedly doing? Working out at Planet Fitness. Reportedly downgrading her wardrobe. Reportedly pinching pennies. Reportedly losing access to the kind of blue-chip brand partnerships that a fighter of her caliber should be swimming in. Why? Because sponsors do not want to attach themselves to tabloid content. Sponsors want to attach themselves to champions. And the moment a fighter's headlines shift from what she is doing in the ring to who she is dating outside of it, and specifically, dating in the most public, most married, most legally unresolved way possible, the sponsorship phone stops ringing. That is not gossip. That is marketing 101. And that is angle number 1 of what is quietly happening to Claressa's actual career while everybody is arguing about a bathtub scene. Angle number 2, the fight economy. Remember the international opponent Claressa was supposedly going to face? Remember the fellow Olympic medalist who was reportedly on the table as a legitimate pay-per-view level opponent? Where did that go? Because a fight of that magnitude is not just a boxing match. It is a currency-generating event. It is a global broadcast. It is the kind of matchup that would have moved Claressa from being the best of the American female boxing scene into being a genuine global crossover star. And somehow, that fight did not materialize the way it was supposed to. And I want to be very careful here. I am not claiming to know the exact reason. I am reading the pattern. And the pattern reads like a situation where the powers that be looked at Claressa's offering behavior, looked at the tabloid density around her, looked at the sponsor risk, and quietly redirected their talents elsewhere. That is what a rational commercial ecosystem does when a fighter becomes a liability. It does not confront her. It does not lecture her. It just stops calling. And the fights she should have gotten start going to other names. And 2 or 3 years later, when it is time to write the history books about who the greatest female boxer of this generation was, the names in the record book are going to be the names who kept the tabloid content off their record, not the ones who leaned all the way into it. Angle number 3, the manufactured relevance economy, and this is the deepest layer of the whole thing. Because here is what I think is actually happening. I think both Claressa and Papoose are in on this. I think both of them, together, are running a coordinated attention play, and I think the entire music video, the entire copycat aesthetic, the entire recreation of Remy Ma's iconic moments is not sloppy work. It is bait. Because in a media ecosystem where attention is currency, and where a fading rapper can no longer generate attention on the merit of his music alone, the fastest way to force a spike in engagement is to provoke a reaction from a bigger star. And Remy Ma is the bigger star. Remy Ma has always been the bigger star. And the entire strategy of publicly recreating her aesthetics, publicly parading around with her husband, publicly dressing like her wedding photos, publicly sitting on Cam Newton's couch tomorrow to talk about relationships, is a coordinated attempt to drag Remy Ma into a public reaction that would generate the kind of headlines that Papoose alone can no longer generate. That is what I think is happening. And if that is what is happening, then Claressa is not just an entangled mistress. She is a co-producer of an engagement farming operation, and Papoose is directing the whole thing, and the daughter is reportedly creative directing the visuals. And the entire family is stacking a business model on top of the emotional wreckage of a marriage that has not even been legally finalized yet. The industry insiders who look at situations like this know exactly what this is. This is what happens when a legacy artist runs out of runway and decides to convert his personal life into content. And every single time that model gets deployed, the culture ends up looking back at it with the same verdict. This was a phase, this was a bit, and the person who came out of it clean was the person who never touched it. Which brings us, finally, to the moment we have been building toward this entire video. Here is the truth bomb. Here is the thing I want everybody watching this video to sit with for the next couple of minutes without scrolling away, because this is the piece that reframes everything. Claressa Shields is not being elevated by this rebrand. Claressa Shields is being consumed by it. And by the time she sits across from Cam Newton tomorrow on Funky Friday to talk about greatness, mindset, and relationships, she is going to be walking into that interview as a case study in career self-sabotage that boxing analysts, marketing analysts, and culture commentators are going to be dissecting for the next 10 years. And I do not say that lightly. I do not say that for shock. I say that because when you stack every single piece of evidence we have walked through in this video on top of each other, the mistress entanglement with a man whose divorce is reportedly not finalized, the wife who has reportedly been begging to sign the papers herself and getting refused, the music video that lifts Remy Ma's iconic imagery scene for scene on a Dollar Tree budget, the third-grade lyrics about a luxury lifestyle her own family reportedly cannot access, the Planet Fitness downgrade, the Chanel bag that was reportedly stolen or pawned and immediately replaced despite her claim that she is a penny pincher, the disappeared international fight opportunity, the sponsor silence, the Funky Friday appearance being pitched around the word relationships instead of the word champion. You are not looking at a rising star. You are looking at a decorated athlete who is being reportedly, systematically, publicly rebranded from champion into content, and she is participating in her own rebrand willingly because she does not seem to understand what she is trading away. The truth is that Claressa Shields does not have an original bone in her body right now. That is what the evidence says. Not what I say. What the evidence says. She has to study what Remy Ma is doing. She has to study what Remy Ma has done. She has to run the imagery back, remix it on a budget, and pass it off as her own creative expression, and she has to do all of this while sitting next to the exact husband whose wife she copied the aesthetic from. That is not a boxer. That is not an athlete. That is not a champion. That is a woman doing a live-action fan edit of somebody else's marriage. And the culture sees it. The culture has already made its verdict. Every single comment section on every single one of her recent posts is a graveyard of receipts. Every single archive comparison video that gets posted is another nail in the same coffin. Every single time she opens her mouth in an interview, another goofy soundbite gets clipped and reposted and quoted back to her for months. And tomorrow, on national platform-level content, on Cam Newton's show, she is going to have to sit there and try to deliver a version of herself that the internet has already dismantled in real time before the interview has even aired. That is the truth bomb. Claressa Shields is not the story anymore. The rebrand is the story. And the rebrand is failing. Publicly. Loudly. In slow motion. And there is no bathtub scene, no grape shot, no Papoose feature, no Funky Friday appearance. And no third-grade lyric about a private jet she has never been on that is going to reverse the damage that has already been done to a career that should have been one of the greatest athletic legacies of this generation. That is the reality. And Remy already knew. Remy told us. Pap wants half. And she said ain't getting is what she said. And that is that on that. Meanwhile, Remy Ma. Let us talk about Remy Ma, because this whole video has been about a copycat, and I would be doing you a disservice if I did not end this by centering the woman being copied, the woman who is winning without even having to be outside. Remy Ma is not making music videos aimed at Claressa. Remy Ma is not throwing shots. Remy Ma is not doing bathtub scenes to compete. Remy Ma is not sitting on couches on national platforms trying to explain the word relationships. Remy Ma is doing what real ones do, which is nothing, publicly, while everybody else scrambles to imitate the imagery she already owned a decade ago. And that is the entire lesson of this story. The person who does not have to prove anything is the person who has already proven everything. The person who is being copied is winning. The person doing the copying is losing. That is the contrast one-liner of this entire situation. Claressa is doing homework. Remy is doing life. Claressa is recreating Remy's archive on a budget. Remy is living the actual archive in real time. Claressa is trying to look like a wife. Remy is a wife, on paper, whose husband will not even sign the divorce he reportedly filed, which is arguably the loudest, most damning piece of evidence in this entire timeline. Because the man who reportedly filed the divorce that is supposedly freeing him to be with Claressa is the same man who reportedly refuses to sign the paperwork that would actually free him to be with Claressa. And that means the paperwork was never about being with Claressa. It was about performing being with Claressa. And Remy, quiet, composed, sending papers, offering to pay for the attorney, offering to finish it herself, is the actual power position in this entire story. And every single receipt in this video points back to her. Every single copycat move points back to the original. Every single bathtub scene points back to the first bathtub scene. Every single wedding aesthetic points back to the first wedding. Every single moment of the rebrand is a footnote in a book that Remy already wrote. So when I say the right person is winning, I mean it in the most literal way possible. The right person is winning because the right person does not have to compete. The right person is winning because the right person already has the archive. The right person is winning because the culture, when you strip away the noise, always eventually returns to the original. And the original is Remy. Not the reenactment. Not the recreation. Not the Dollar Tree version. Not the Tama cover. The original. And no interview tomorrow, no music video next week, no album, no publicity stunt, no engagement farming operation is going to move that fact 1 inch. The archive belongs to who it belongs to. And it does not belong to Claressa Shields. And this is only the start. I want everybody watching to understand that, because the Funky Friday interview is tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I am telling you right now, before it airs, that we are going to be right back here to break it down line by line, soundbite by soundbite, cringe moment by cringe moment. Because there is no version of that interview that does not produce at least 3 problematic clips, at least 2 goofy statements, and at least 1 Remy Ma mention that Claressa will pretend she did not just make. Mark it. Screenshot this. Come back and check. And beyond that interview, the full version of this so-called Good Life record is reportedly scheduled to drop the day before the fight on August 14th, and I promise you we are going to sit down with the full track, the full video, the full production, and do a complete frame-by-frame archive comparison to Remy Ma's catalog, so nobody can say we are reaching, so nobody can say we are cherry-picking, so nobody can say we did not do the homework. If you want to be here for all of that, if you want to be in the room when the Funky Friday interview gets dissected, if you want to be in the room when the music video gets pulled apart shot by shot, hit that like button right now. Hit subscribe if you have not already, and turn on the notification bell so you are notified the second I post. Tell your friends. Tell your family. Tell everybody who has ever loved a Remy Ma verse or ever watched a Claressa Shields fight, because this story is only getting bigger from here. And before you click away, I want to point you toward the next video you need to watch, because the deeper Claressa Shields story that I have not even touched yet is about Papoose himself, specifically. The pattern of a rapper whose career has quietly been running on somebody else's fumes for years, and the moment coming up on the calendar that is about to expose exactly how empty the tank actually is. That video breaks down every deal, every feature, every quiet no from the industry, and by the end of it you are going to understand why this entire entanglement was never really about Claressa in the first place. Click it, watch it, and I will talk to you again very soon.